Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Angular Space TV, another live stream episode today. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy Holiday to everyone watching. I hope you all had a nice holiday season. And I thought maybe we could just start with a nice, interesting discussion today to make the first work days of 2026 a bit more tolerable, I guess. And we're going to go more into that discussion part instead of like doing a lot of live coding and more hands-on stuff today. Instead, we're going to talk about very, very interesting things on Angular. And we have a very special guest today who I will present shortly. And together we're going to deconstruct everything going inside Angular, from compiler to landing new features in the Angular code base. Because when we spend a lot of time working with Angular, we have a guest today who is working on Angular with the Angular team. Please welcome Matthieu Riegler. Hey, Matthieu.
Thank you, Armin. Good pronunciation. Thank you. Hi, everyone.
I think people in Armenia are more open to talking in French. Maybe it helps that we have the whole spectrum of sounds. For example, maybe like people from Russia or English-speaking people would struggle with the pronunciation of the sound R. But we have that sound, we have that letter in our alphabet, we have like all the sounds. And since you are from France, here's a fun fact. The Armenian word for thank you is a very long one.
Yeah.
It's like Shnakalutun, and no one is bothering to say that. So instead in Armenia, everyone says merci.
Oh, I just learned recently that even the Swiss Germans say merci too.
And Armenians. I don't know where this came from, but it's like everyone says it. It's like the usual thank you instead of.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, welcome to our live stream, and maybe let's start talking a bit about what's going on inside Angular. I want to hear more about compiler.
We can talk about a lot of things. Just give you some info. So basically, nobody has been working for the last couple of weeks because it was Christmas, it was New Year's Eve, and etc. So everybody's resting a bit. But we are shipping 21.1 next week. So it means that today we will land the RC with all the new features that will be in 21.1. And when you asked me if I wanted to do a stream with you, I was like, yeah, what can we talk about? So I was like, yeah, maybe one of the latest PR I was working on. It's something actually quite funny. Enea asked recently, you probably know him, Enea Yaolari, very active in the Angular communities, told me, can you do something about the switch? Can we have multiple cases? I could say, yeah, let me look what I can do. Just checked in with the team. Do we agree that we want this? Was okay. Spent a few days during the holidays to work on this. And we just merged the PR this afternoon. So it means that in the RC, we'll have the support for multiple cases on the switch blocks. Yay! That's a very old issue. If I can find it.
Do I remember correctly that it was a community PR, or did you submit that PR when you?
I did submit that PR. There was a PR
okay.
in the past, but it didn't match what we wanted in terms of syntax, etc. So if I just can't find the issue that we had, it was like a very old one, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 14,000 admits. It was open in 2017, so 8 years ago. And we finally fixed that issue.
Yeah. Michael says that if all the staff text for minor at this moment drops, that's going to be a wild minor. So we have a lot of
lot of small increments. But if you look back a month ago, it didn't look like it will be an interesting one. But it was like, several people had ideas, a bit of time, and said, okay, let's learn a lot of small things. That's quite interesting.
Yeah.
So and maybe I wanted to present a bit the work I did on my PR. I don't know if you want to share your screen or should I share mine?
If you want to, feel free.
Then let me share something. Okay. Will it work? Yes, probably. Let me share exactly. I'm lost between all my windows. Let's go with this one. Do you see something? Probably yes.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I see it now.
You see it now, perfect. So yeah, quick example of the feature we're adding is that, okay, we are improving the control flow syntax to add something that allows us to have multiple cases.
Yeah.
Because as you might know, Angular has its own syntax, so we have to take care of the cases that we want to support. Up until now, we could only have a single one, and if we wanted to have multiple cases, we had to duplicate basically each block several times. It wasn't very practical. So before I jump into this, I will show you something.
Okay.
It's a small app I wrote probably a year ago.
Right.
I just wanted to show to people what exactly happens when we compile templates. So as you know, the templates we write, they are basically HTML with a few control flow elements like @f, @for, @switch, and also some additional syntax like the @let or the defer block. So imagine you write just a simple HTML component template, and it is basically compiled by the compiler from HTML to some JavaScript.
Yeah.
And in JavaScript, we have what we call instructions. So these are Angular instructions. You might have seen sometimes some error, some messages with those two paired O's. So the paired O means when you have two, means it's what we call an instruction. If you have a single one, it just means this is a private API that you shouldn't be using.
Yeah.
So in the case of when you compile a template, so you have different type of properties that you can see here. I have the selector, that's some internal data, etc. The encapsulation, that's what you have when you choose emulator, the shadow DOM, etc. So you have different set of options. But what's really interesting is that function here. That's the function that runs every time you do. That's the function that runs every time on change detection. So you will see that we have actually two phases. The first one is the one that actually runs when the component is created, and second one is actually the one that runs only on every CD. So every time CD runs, it will actually just run that part and say, okay, do the text interpolation.
Yeah.
The first thing that we can see is that we have actually two parts of the runtime. Is that the first part, we create elements, that happens only once. And after this, we do update the element that we created. It means that Angular is already optimizing things when it runs by just saying, okay, the structure is already here, but I will only update that part every time I run CD.
Yeah.
So this is the part that's really different from React, for example, where React does some diffing. Angular does something that's closer, but not exactly what some people call incremental DOM, is that we create DOM first, then we update what needs to be updated. The interesting part here is that DOM operation is actually what is the most costly operation. You do not want to delete and create DOM elements every time. So the fact that we create them ahead and that we only update them each time that they change. So basically behind this text interpolation, we also have a dirty checking that we check that the value that was already here didn't change. And if it changed, we will actually update the DOM. So basically the idea, so whatever syntax we have, we transform this into instructions. As you can see, this is deployed from my GitHub repo on GitHub.io. You can try it on yourself. And here I have a set of templates just to show you the different outputs that you get. So, for example, you can see that whenever we do an if block, I'll try to do it a bit simpler so we have less to show. Basically, we get an instructions that will take a template function. I'll explain later what it is. And in on the update mode, we see that we are checking the condition that we wrote here. And basically, depending on the condition, we will render either one part of the template or the other. So you can see we have template
so wait,
0, template 1.
This is interesting. So essentially the checking, like the condition we wrote in the template, it gets passed to this conditional function, and with the numbers, it just decides which nodes to put there.
This is what I want to explain. So basically, when you create a something with that is reused, it creates sub functions. So what we call some views, and here we have 2 different functions matching the 2 different blocks. As you can see here, for example, A is greater than B, A is equal to B. You can see that those 2 functions here are match the if, and that's the else. So basically, whenever it runs, the conditional say okay. In this case, it's true. I will run template the template 0. So this one, and if it's false, I will run template 1. So basically, it's just when you look at this, change detection is basically just rendering each template function after the other.
It's very interesting because we talk about views, right, in Angular. So when we write ng template, or when we have, I guess, something passed via ng content to a child component, and also the control flow, essentially those are functions.
Exactly. We are compiling them to functions. Exactly.
No, that's very interesting, and that kind of explains a lot about how the compiler works and how it operates under the hood.
And just to illustrate what you were saying, say I created just here a bare template. So when you create an ng template, it's not displayed. So it's just saying, okay, I'm declaring it. As you can see here, I'm declaring the templates. When I say 1, it's create mode, 2 is update mode. And if ever I wanted to use it, let me add a reference to it. It would basically be ng template, template outlet, ng container, and you do basically like this, and you would pass the ref, and it will actually render container. Bingo. So basically here, what I just say, you can see that I'm creating here the templates, but I'm actually referencing it into the template outlet, and this is what will run afterwards.
Wow, this is like really under the hood stuff.
Exactly. So that's something I wanted to build for quite a long time, because I wanted to first to understand myself, and by building it, I want to also say, okay, everyone can actually have a bit of insider knowledge of how Angular itself works. If you just want to play with it, just try anything. You would see what happens when you add some event
I have used this in the past, but not all the examples, and it's super interesting.
So you can just see all the instructions that we use for different cases. Like for example, here I use a atlet. You can see that when you use atlet, you actually oh wait, is something wrong here? I don't see the declaration. Oh,
I think it's declared in the
It's declared here.
Why is it declared in the next side? If I understand correctly, if render flags, RF, I guess stands for render flag, is 1, it's when you are creating the component, and 2 is when it's being updated during change detection. So what's interesting is why is the declaration goes now into the creation, into update. That's interesting.
This is exactly why we called it atlet and not atconst, because that value is evaluated on every change detection. So imagine this is a signal, and you want to read it and store it here. Basically, you want to read that signal every time. So you do not want it to be in the creation mode, but you want it to have it in the update mode.
Which now, just one question, which I think is very important for everyone. I think I understand it, but so that this means essentially what I deduce from it is that if I create a component, I'm guaranteed to run a change detection cycle over it at least once, right?
Yes.
If there is any bindings.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it makes sense why it would go only into the like render flex 2 mode when into the update.
And just to show you
cycle.
the most basic example with an interpolation, every time you always have at least the creation mode, and if you have some dynamic data, then you go into update mode.
Yeah. So if I have a component that just displays a template, no binding, nothing, just plain HTML, it won't have a.
Exactly. We just create whatever we have. You can see.
So in the end, it doesn't even matter if it has on push or not on push or whatever.
Exactly. So basically, when you have not on push but it's static, it will just come to the function in update mode and see, okay, there is nothing. It just reads out.
Yeah.
So it's already optimized. When it's static, it's basically nothing happening.
But so if you do on push, does it change anything during the compilation? Like, does the compiler output change? No.
No. It's really is at runtime. It checks if the component is dirty. If it's dirty, it will be checked. If not, it will skip it and go to the next one.
Yeah, got it. That's very interesting. And the advanced function that I see, do I understand correctly that it is a way of sort of getting to the next binding or something like that?
Exactly. So we store them in some huge array when we have all the information that we need for the components. And in some cases, you will see maybe this one. Do we see an advanced? No. It's probably when I have multiple bindings. I don't remember exactly all the implementations. I do this. Okay. Oh yeah. I will get another advance because I need to jump to the next element. So yeah.
Right. So essentially, what it does, it moves through that array. It just compiler.
Yes, it moves some index to check, etc.
Yeah, that's a very interesting approach. But is there like it seems a bit. I don't want to use the word weird. It's just something very unusual in terms of like finding the bindings, I guess. Why is it something like I don't know.
More than the bindings. The bindings is actually, if you look at it, it's just it will check which part of the generated element you need to update. For example, here you see we have 3 element starts, so we need to reach for the element that we actually want to update.
And then you update for you do like advanced 2 because you kind of jump over 2 elements.
Yes, I think it's about
the one
this.
That needs to be...
I don't have all the details in mind because it's actually the code I did not touch that much, and it's been here since IB itself.
Yeah, sorry for hard questions, but this is
no problem.
Interesting. I always
but basically,
to get a
what I want people to just understand, say when we compile an HTML template, an Angular template, we basically take HTML and we generate some JavaScript function with it with 2 steps: the part what is creation and the part that is the update mode. So once you know this, we can go back to my PR and I'll explain you a bit what happens. So such a feature takes, as you can see, just adding that support is about 35 files that we need to modify. That includes tests, documentation, implementation, etc. So when you look what's it's impacted when you just want to change one little thing in our syntax. We change something into the compiler. So the compiler is really what takes the HTML and transforms it into JavaScript. We have the runtime core. So in core, we have all the functions that you are using every day, but also we have all the instructions that are exported privately. So if you wanted, you could get them if you do import something, but there is no reason for you to use them and they're private. So there's the 2 parts. There's some kind of glue. The compiler CLI, it's the part that's used by the CLI to call the compiler, but it's also the part that is used. We'll see. I'll talk to you a bit about this, about type checking. Type checking is what helps us
part.
type check your templates. And of course, because we changed our syntax, we want the language service to support it, and we want also the VS Code extension for the language service to also support it. So that's all the things that we need to update just for that little increment of feature. What looks something very small is actually kind of a lot of work if you look into it.
Makes sense. It's still, I mean, while if you look at the syntax, it looks small, but if you think about it, it's a big impact. Even the feature itself, like forget about the code, it's still a big feature, which a lot of developers, when they start adopting it, would mean a lot of work for them too. So,
but at the same time, it looks a lot, but you could also say you could implement it quite quickly. Let's say 80% of the feature was implemented in less than a day. But then there was a lot of edge casing of tests to support the support for the VS Code extension was a bit longer too. But the implementation itself, when you know what to do and when you can also leverage LLMs, it goes quite fast.
How much vibe coding did go into it?
Into this one, I would say more than 50% was vibe coded, because also when you know what you want to ask, you just say, okay, do it. When you give the right instructions, the LLM is actually quite efficient at doing this. So it was just me being lazy, just not wanting to write it when the LLM can do it for myself.
Does Angular, sorry for a bit mildly off-topic question, but does Angular now get like vibe-coded pull requests? Because I've seen on Twitter and Blue Sky some maintainers.
For sure, we do get, but I feel like it's more reasonable. We definitely can see when a PR was vibe-coded. But I don't mind something that is vibe coded, but also correct, I would say. The problem is when you get a shit PR, like when you get all the emojis in the PR and you see that the person writes something without understanding what it wrote. And also there is no test and shit like this. I'd say, that's not good. But I don't mind someone coming with a PR saying, okay, that may be vibe coded. I'm not sure. But if it's done when you open a PR and you somehow respect the maintainers by just saying, hey, it's vibe coded, so part of it because I didn't understand everything, and you put the effort to do a good work, that's not really a problem. I mean, I would expect today someone that works correctly to leverage LLMs almost everywhere today. It could be 10%, it could be 80%, could be almost 100%. I don't mind as long as it's done reasonably and respect to the person you submit the code to.
Most important is if we understand what the hell we are doing.
Exactly. The problem really is for people that want to fix an issue, but they don't really understand, just ask the LLM to fix it. And I've seen some PR, not many, but some PRs like clearly vibe coded. You can see by the comments, you can see by the emoji in the PR, and the fact that the fix was actually total crap. So if you want to understand what happens, I will give you a quick overlook of what it takes to actually update a compiler when you want to do some feature. So imagine when you start, you have something that you have different steps. That's probably true for every compiler. You have different steps where you actually gather some information. The first thing that happens is that we have a lexer. The lexer is actually takes the text file, which is HTML for us, and trying to parse it and to detect all the tokens. So it detects some tokens. It creates an AST from this. An AST is an abstract syntax tree, which kind of represents the logical structure of what you wrote. And that's the part here. Then you have some, that's part render 3. So basically we parse everything, we tokenize, then we go some sort of, we have the part that parses HTML, which isn't affected here because I'm not touching the HTML parsing, but I'm touching what we call R3, or render 3. Render 3 is basically everything that is Angular specific into that template. So here, as you can see, there was already some code for switch blocks. If I move up, I will probably see something related to the fur or to the for block, etc. So all the Angular specific syntax will end up here, where we have different structure. Say, okay, here, now I will change a bit. Before, I always has one switch, one case. In the case, I had some block inside with some Angular template syntax again inside of it. So you can have some kind of recursive structure. What changed here is that we changed from having only one case with the content with children. Now we can have multiple cases with single children. So we have to restructure everything. That's, I want to say, basically data structure. That's happened here. And you get some code that just like trying to make sense to give the compiler all the information. We still keep all the location of the things. But when you see some parse span, it's just like whenever there is an error, we are able to say, okay, if the JavaScript compilation fails here, it's because something that is located at this line and this column, between this and this column, this is where it failed. So it gives the compiler the ability to give you actually real HTML as input in terms of errors, not only some JavaScript error that doesn't mean anything for you, because it's important to give you the best output possible.
Yeah.
Then everything, when we have some kind of structure, we pass it into something that we call the compiler pipeline. The template pipeline is where everything is transformed from what we parsed into an intermediate representation. That's something you see in a lot of compilers in any different fields. But basically, it's some kind of structure that is not JavaScript yet, but it's an intermediate state that we're able to optimize, to do some operation on it.
Yeah.
And in the end, we have some kind of inner representation that say, okay, when we have this, and basically output JavaScript or TypeScript from that intermediate representation. That's basically what the compiler does.
Does it, as far as I understand, maybe correct me if I'm wrong here, but does it initially go like to TypeScript, and then that gets compiled in the end to the JavaScript?
So that's the complex part of the Angular compiler. So the Angular compiler, NGC, that you might see sometimes, NGC, is a TypeScript program.
Yeah.
So it's a compiler written in TypeScript, does everything in TypeScript, but also reaches for what we call the TypeScript API. I will show it a bit later to you when I talk about type checking. This is where it's the most visible. But basically, we're doing everything in TypeScript. And at the end, we will leverage the TypeScript APIs to generate the JavaScript in output. Basically, what the TypeScript does, the compiler does when you compile just with TSC, it takes some TypeScript, output JavaScript. We use the same APIs, but not via command line. We use directly what the compiler exposes in terms of TypeScript function. So yes, this is basically the compiler part, and I don't think the output doesn't change much because basically I just changed the parsing, and then the logic would just make sense that we just change a bit change a bit the output.
Yeah.
So when this is compiled, basically we can switch to what we call the type check block. So the type check block is basically a TypeScript representation of any of your template. And for this, I will switch my screen to something else, and I will show something. Let me move to window. I'll move you here. I'll check. I'll go to, yes, exactly here. I will take a, do you see, yes, you do see my VS Code, right?
Not yet, but hopefully
Not
soon.
yet? Should be?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
It took a bit of time. So basically, whenever you write something, I will take a very basic example. What did I do? Yes. I just took the first window I had, so. Imagine you want to show something like a condition. If my signal, and this will display something like, okay.
Yeah.
Just like this. I want to my signal. I hate when it does this stupid auto completion.
Yeah, right.
So, And when you have the Angular language service extension installed, you can actually type a command, Control Shift P or Command Shift P. You can command, and you look for the view template type check block. And okay, wait, if I am on the template, I can check here. And basically, this is the JavaScript function that is generated that matches, or the TypeScript function more, that matches the type representation of your template.
So this is what's used to type check.
Exactly.
But this is not what gets compiled into the template, right?
No. That's code that's never made it to JavaScript, but it's fed into the TypeScript compiler to say, okay, I'm giving you this code. Please generate the errors if there is any in terms of type checking. And as you can see, we do collocate the location of the blocks to say, okay, that part here represents from character 186 to character 194. And this is the code that is passed to the TypeScript compiler to say, okay, check it if there is an issue.
Yeah. So all my life, I thought that actually templates get compiled to TypeScript and then it's just being compiled to JavaScript to get what we get in the end. But in reality, it's more like of a parallel process where we compile it to this TypeScript representation. We give it to TypeScript. We say, just check the errors, give us the errors. And then does this... well, I want to ask why. I'm sure there's a good reason for this.
You don't need to basically the code that's the representation. How do you say it? The JavaScript or the TypeScript we generate for the instruction doesn't have that info for typings.
No.
And also we want to have sometimes some tweaks that we want to make sure is represented correctly in TypeScript. So we really wanted to have the possibility to do that by saying, okay, we take the template and we give it a TypeScript representation in terms of types, not in terms of runtime.
Does it ever result in issues where the compiled output in the end gets an error, which is kind of a type error that could have been caught because there was some issue with this representation?
Basically is, if I understand your question, so the runtime can be perfectly correct, and there can be a bug into the TypeScript representations. That's what I had to fix yesterday, for example. So the code generated was absolutely perfect. There is no problem with it, but there was a bug into the TypeScript representations that made the compilation fail. So the code was correct, but just because of the TypeScript, there was an issue.
And if I understand correctly, the language service sometimes, for example, gives me wrong errors in VS Code. This is something that I sometimes experience, that it says that there is a type error on some line.
Yes.
And but when I run the project, it compiles correctly. So is that something that might have been stuck on a different representation and was
it's possible? Yes, we would need to see exactly what's the case, but
it's super hard to reproduce.
yeah. I mean, I would only trust what you get from your console. Sometimes you have can have issues inside VS Code, but what the console gives you, it's what's correct.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it means that the VS Code extension itself runs its own language service, and there can be some kind of edge cases where there is a mismatch, or I don't know, some kind of with bugs where it doesn't detect correctly the version or something like this. I've seen sometimes issue that say, yeah, your component should be standalone. Say, yeah, it is standalone because I'm already in V20 where it's by default, etc. So that's the shit that can happen. But okay, so now you understand a bit that we have also to generate the conditions. Maybe I can show it something that's more meaningful. Imagine I have a value which is val, and I say it can basically be 1 or the string a. I say it's 1. And if ever in my template say value, I switch. I say value. And I can write a function. Let me take a function, my func that takes something that is only a number, whatever it does. Here, I'm writing my blog, so have case 1, and here we know that if I call my func with val, it is happy because it is a number. If I had passed a here, it should have failed. Okay, it didn't fail because I was missing the interpolation. It would have failed. It was 1. It would have been correct. And let me show you the template representation for this. I mean, the TCB, type check block. You will see that here we have a case. It's basically just JavaScript, and say, okay, I have something. I will check that val was actually narrowed down to something that is correct, which was the value 1. So basically, the type representations will allow you to have the narrowing, all the behavior you expect from true JavaScript code, even if we are not writing here JavaScript. Okay.
So in the representation, the i0.app is the component. It's passed as this, so everything is on that, and we just need to like check if stuff gets passed around.
Exactly. That's what you see here, and that the val was actually what I declared on the component, etc.
A bit of a funny thing is that when we write like if statements and switch statements in the compiled output, we don't get those, right? We get these functions like create condition and conditional with this, but here we do this makes a lot of sense to explain to me why like it's not the same output, why it doesn't get compiled to TypeScript and then to JavaScript, but instead it's done in this way, which makes perfect sense now. I learned a lot today.
Perfect. So that's one part. I'll switch back to my PR. I'll show you some other things. Hopla. Okay, now that's the issue. Let me move. Okay, here.
Michael says that says, I don't know, there is no question mark. What is the magic that allows in the language service to enable strict template warnings without actually having strict settings? This is low-key the most slept on thing and has been great. I don't understand.
So what is the magic that allows the language to... Oh, good question. So basically, when you say the language service, Michael, I guess you're saying the VS Code extension. Normally, the VS Code extension should match what you see in your TS config. So I'm kind of surprised. Maybe I'm missing something. Oh yeah.
I bet he will provide a clarification soon.
I just saw Roberto's comment. He heard my my ringtone.
Totally fast ringtone.
Yes, exactly. So let me switch back to this. I want to jump to the next topic. It's actually testing. You might not know, but I have never seen a repo with so much test as the Angular repo. It's fantastic.
That's very good news.
Yes, there's so many tests. We don't like regressions, and we like to cover a butt by just writing tests that tests everything. And one of the tests we have is actually we are checking the output of the compiler and want to make sure that whenever we generate something, that the representation is correct. And here, what happened is that we have a whole directory that is just dedicated to check the output for the console flow. And here in this case, I have just this component.
By the way,
I want to make sure.
If you want to share something, it's not.
Is it not?
No.
Technology is bad. Let's try again. Do you see something now?
Yeah, I see it now. Yeah.
Perfect. So like I was saying here, we are deep into our directories. That's the test cases where we test actually the output of the compiler. So what we do is we give it a component, and we want to check what's JavaScript output we get.
Yeah.
And basically here, I just have different things, but what matters to us here is to check what happens when I have multiple cases into my add switch. So the output here, the golden we check against, will just check that some part of it are present. So here we see that we create a conditional because a switch is basically one big if with a lot of else if. And here we then have a conditional will an optimized output with a ternary. So we check that if it's 0, we show template 2. If it's 1, we also show template 2. And if it's 2, we show template 3. And by default, we show template 4. That's exactly what we had here. If it's 1 or 0, we show the first template. If it's 2, we show the second one. And if it's default, we go with this one.
So wait, one question. The GS output here.
Yes.
Is it like written by hand to check in the test?
So I don't know how everybody does it, but what I do is usually I write my component, I write the test, I see that it fails, I just copy what I get as output and say, okay, that's what I want.
I see. Okay.
But basically that's how you would write it, I would say, because
that makes sense,
I mean, that's, you know what you want. I mean, at least when I write this, I know what I want. I just make sure that what I write in this file is what I want. And because I'm lazy, I just wait for the test to fail, say, okay, why it fell, but well, this is the output I'm getting.
That makes sense.
So again, that's the best part where you see 2 steps, create an update, and you have all the instructions. So this is what happens. So basically here we have what happens with the compilation part. This is like 80% of the work or even more for supporting that new template increment. Next to this, because here I only had tests about how the compiler behaves, how the output is. I just also want to make sure that in the runtime, that when the application runs, when I have something like this, it actually displays what I expect. So I write what you would write in any Angular app, some kind of test you want to show. Here, I just
but this is more like usual Angular test.
Exactly. That's the part that everybody should understand. You create new components, create components. Here it's an all kind of test because we haven't migrated anything to the new zoneless test. We still use detect changes, and we check the content. So here I just check that at the runtime. So after compilation in every app, it just behaves like you would expect. Then again, after this, language servers, just the support for it is just implementing some of the small changes. We have some kind of, so when you build compilers, you use what we call the visitor pattern, where you just navigate through the AST just to visit every part of it. So this is just what you need to update, not very interesting. And then one last part is the template, the VS Code extension. So the VS Code extensions also is responsible for doing the highlighting in your VS Code. So basically taking the HTML, but adding also the support for all the colors and all the things for the Angular syntax. So for this, we use what is called a TextMate language. So we have the definition that is based on the TextMate, I don't know, not dictionary, but syntax. So basically here we had to update, say, okay, that new syntax, these are the rules for you to understand it and to actually produce the right colors in your VS Code or other VS Code based IDE. This is what happens. And again, when you have something, you get all the tests. So what I like is when I open a PR and when the test changes are longer than the feature itself, then I'm kind of satisfied. Say, okay, this probably tested enough. As you can see here, we just changed the representation that VS Code sees when it parses a Angular template, and this is basically it. And of course, when you do some kind of changes like this, you do updates your documentation, because a good documentation is already important, and you add the new specifications, and this is it. So we end up with 35 changes, and a satisfying feedback is when you don't get much comments on your PR, and it has been merged, like I said, it will be shipped later today in the RC. This is one of the features that will land today and that will ship in 21.1 next week. Maybe I can show some other
not a lot of
things.
time to go. That's good
exactly.
to know.
Maybe I can show some other things that will land in 21.1.
Of course.
Let me check. Not everything has been merged yet. So when you see the merge tag, is basically we have one person that is responsible for merging the PRs, but also merging that code from GitHub into Google's monorepo. So some of you might not know. So we develop all the time on GitHub, but we do synchronize several times a day all the PRs that have been merged today into Google's monorepo, so the people at Google can use the same features.
Yeah.
And let me check. So
a lot of people might not know that Google has this huge monorepo.
Oh yeah.
Also, yeah.
That's probably a talk for for another day.
But if you are watching and didn't know, yes, I think essentially everything that Google has, all the products, all the frameworks, everything is in one big
monorepo. You could say everything like Google Search, Google Image, YouTube, even applications that belong to Google. Companies that belong to Google, like Waymo, also on G3. So G3 is Google 3, the Google's monorepo. Basically, what's not on G3 on the monorepo, it's Google Chrome, which is an open source project that lives also outside. There is Android also, which is also developed as an open source project, but from people at Google. So those are the kind of big projects that are outside of monorepo. But for example, inside at Google, there are like more than 4,000 Angular apps inside that monorepo.
Wow, that's great. And like latest Angular things get probably quickly battle tested on those repos.
Oh, exactly. So basically, we cannot break. So basically, it's a monorepo. There is no branch. There's only the main trunk. It's trunk-based development. So every time we merge a PR and we sync it into G3, it's actually we test it against all the apps. And if we break an app, we have to revert that change. Say, okay, we need to fix first before we land something. So it means that every PR that is merged is actually not breaking an app at Google. It is kind of impressive.
That's actually great.
Yes, exactly.
Also great to know. It gives a lot of peace of mind when using new versions.
Exactly. That's kind of a pain for us because it means that every breaking change we need actually to migrate this, which makes some changes very hard to land, but it also means that if we have to migrate it, it's doable. And if it's doable for us, it's probably doable for you. Also, another change that will
spread syntax in templates.
Yes.
But this is a great one.
So this one is basically, before I've seen some people already comment, this is only spread syntax and objects. It doesn't allow spreading all the inputs to a child component. So basically it allows you to just create some objects, but it doesn't allow you to pass all the inputs from one component to its child.
Can I do a hot take? I don't like when they do that in GSX.
Of course,
I don't like
of course. That's the question is how much logic you want to put in your syntax and how much belongs in actually the pure code. But at the same time, there is one of the cases I see for this. It's basically, it goes alongside another PR that we won't be able to merge because the freeze is today. It's probably for the next minor. Is we want to have arrow function.
That one I support.
The number one usage you want for arrow function is actually using being able to just write your signal update directly into the template.
Yeah.
If you do signal.updates, sometimes just easy. You don't have to do a spread, but if ever it's an object, you need to return in your reference, else the signal will not be marked dirty. So what you need is the spread syntax. You need the arrow function syntax to be able to do even simple things into the template. Of course, you can do a lot of mess, but that's that's on you. We don't want to be the bad code police. If you want to write shit, you're responsible. But at least we want to give people the right tools to write the simplest code possible for whatever they want to write.
Yeah.
But I get your take. I get your take that it can be dangerous, but at the same time, if you use it responsibly, it's a great tool.
Yeah, I think like using it for updating a signal, especially if it's like a normal update, not 300
Yes,
times of code update, it
of
kind of
course.
makes sense. What I didn't like is the situation with destructuring all input, like all object key values
Yes.
into component inputs, because I think that kind of like smells like bad design to me in terms of why does this component has this
So,
like
but what I
gazillion
understand,
of
people want to use that to do actually component wrapping. It just okay. I just want to pass all the inputs from one to the other, and that's it, to keep it as simple as possible. But yeah, it can be misused too. Again, it's just about you being responsible with what
yeah,
you
yeah.
write.
But is that something that is planned? As far as I understand, for example, the arrow function is something that is planned in the future, right?
But that is what?
The arrow function thing in
Yeah.
templates is planned for the future,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah. So basically, we have the functionality already,
Yeah.
but
Oh, okay.
we discussed the implementation, and we want to do some changes. And because the freeze is already today for 21.1, we won't ship
Yeah.
it, but the plan is to ship it probably in the next minor if we don't have any
Yeah.
other issues. As
Yeah.
you can see, this one
But
is a much bigger change,
yeah, that
about
makes sense.
75 files to land the feature.
But the other one, the unwrapping of inputs into another component, is not really planned, right?
No,
As far
that's
as I
not planned yet. No,
yeah.
and because we're not sure that it's something that's we do see. So what I like to look is sometimes it's like, do we want to ship something for the community because the community and people also inside Google ask it? What you can do is you go on GitHub, you open issue, you look for reaction, and you can filter for thumbs up
Yeah. Yeah.
and look at what people want. So we try in every major version and or any some in some of the minors to say, okay, let's try to tackle one of the questions, one of the top issues that we feel comfortable implementing.
I'm not surprised that asynchronous providers is like number one
Yeah.
here.
Do you have an idea of what are the most requested feature that we had in the past?
Well, I guess standalone, zoneless,
I'll show it to you quickly.
maybe.
The number one, if I remember correctly, it's type forms. Yes,
All
type forms.
right, right. I should have guessed it because it was such a mess before the strongly typed form.
Yes, so you type forms, then we have directive composition with the host
Oh
directives,
yeah,
the unified state changes events
yeah. Yeah, that was a
for the
big one
forms,
too. Right.
the local variables, so the atlet, the default content for ng content. What else did we get? Then we go
Wait,
into
what is
much
the
smaller.
support for dynamic content projection thing?
This one was closed, but probably a long time ago. Oh, Mark, it's closed because it's in the bucket.
But what is it?
It's basically, I think
Everything
it's
else like kind
basically
of.
all the limitation we have today with content projection.
Okay.
So basically here, that's what Alex wrote. If you want to have want some insight on what the problem we know are and what we would need to redesign if we have to recreate content projections with less problems and more solutions, this is an interesting read and great
Yeah.
insight to have on the question.
I will probably read more about it because I've
Yeah.
heard people complaining about different issues with content
Yeah.
projection, but I haven't used content projection that much. I did, but it was mostly like simple cases.
So if you basically what we do, if the question is like a broader one that impacts a lot the framework and it's just like a minor feature, we put on this the canonical label, just say, okay, it means it leads a major design work, it will take a lot of time, etc.
Yeah,
But actually, we want to show that we are aware of it. Here is our position, here's what we know, etc. And we want also to open it so we can get some inputs, some feature requests, some use cases, some etc. So this is what you might want to read in terms of what we know, what we might be interested to do in the future. But yeah, so here we are in some of the features. What else did I see land for 21.1 or should land? I think this one too. This one, oh, test is not passing, but I think we want to land this too. It's about having a training slash option into the router. So basically, if you host it on GitHub pages, you can't have a training slash in the URL, which means that you often end up with some kind of redirection, etc. Some people have been asking for it, as you can see. Number 16,000 for a issue. It's basically back to 2017 again. Bim.
Oh wow.
So we are trying to learn some of the changes. People have been asking to have signal support for the router. This is much more challenging than what we initially thought, because we don't want to just expose double properties, one as observable, one as signals. We want to do it incrementally and be reasonable by not incrementing too much the minimum bundle size. So if I look a bit on this, if I look for router, you will see some work around wrong word, but we'll have something for the signal. We want the router link to use signal internals. This one's actually quite large. There's a fix here. That's a feature also for. Actually, let me check on miner what we'll send. That's help me know what we send to miner. So the miner is 21.1. Some dev tool changes a bit. That's a security fix. So trading slash.
There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah,
so wait,
some
spread
compiler
syntax also coming in 21.1.
It hasn't been merged yet, but should come. Should be merged later today. Yes, before the release. It's just not the arrow function that we want yet. Like I said, to use more signals, integration with the platform navigation API that is still experimental. Some optimizations, some dev tool stuff. Yeah, that's basically what I see. Control root. Oh yes, this one too. This one is what people have been asking for. Yes.
Is it something like engine destroy for routes or what?
So just be able to destroy the providers at the route level. So people have been asking this for many times. So provide a way to dispose classes that are provided at the route level.
No, okay.
I can show it quite a bit. So basically, when you enter a route, if you provide something at the root level, it will be created at this time. But if you leave it and come back again, it will not create new instances. It will just keep what existed before.
Oh, yeah.
And what this feature introduces, I can check the docs. We have now an option which is with experimental auto cleanup injectors. I mean, if you pass this, every time you leave a route, all the providers on this route will be destroyed. But of course, there are some more, based on the custom strategy, you can have some more fine-grained tuning for that behavior. And again, this is an issue that has an issue number that comes back from 15,000. That's probably again 2017. So basically, we are looking at all issues and say, okay, let's fix this because people want this, etc., etc. Is it that cool?
It's actually amazing. It has been a very, very interesting session.
Yeah.
Now I didn't even, to be honest, because it was a lot of days without work, and I don't bring my laptop to home. I've been at home for like 10 days for holidays. I took some day off too, and I forgot completely that we are due for an Angular minor release.
Yeah.
And now I'm all hyped up.
So the schedule hasn't been released yet, but I will send a PR today just to give the schedule. Yeah. We will do one minor, so next week. We'll do a second minor, 21.2, probably mid-February. And then we expect V22 to be around mid-May again.
Yeah.
So we're still aligned like the several of the previous years. 2 minors, then a major release in May, 2 minors, major release in November. So we get at least 3 releases with features every 6 months.
So before,
I'm checking a bit the questions. If anyone has any question, you can ask some.
Yeah, I think before we go, there's a bunch of questions. I think Michael provided a clarification on what he was referring to. Angular 4 strict template in VFC settings for it's a setting for the
there is a
language
setting.
service,
I didn't know that. That's interesting. You see,
which it says enabling this option will force the language service to use strict template and ignore the user settings in the TS config. Okay.
You see, you're not the only one that learned something today.
No, that's good to know.
You see, that's probably a feature that's worth sharing, actually.
Yeah. So as far as I understand, this is something that allows you to like compile your template and run your project without the strict option, but the language servers will still be screaming at you at stuff that you need to fix.
Let me check. I will if I find it.
Yeah. That's what this says now. It doesn't actually affect compilation. Great to see warnings and manually fix things before
Okay. Let me share my screen. I will show it. I have it just here. Thanks so much, Michael, for this. So I opened the VS Code settings here. As you can see, I've filtered by Angular, so I just have some of the Angular settings. Yeah. And here the second one is for strict templates. So whatever, if you do this, the VS Code extension will show you errors without the project failing to compile because of those said errors. That's a cool thing. Yeah. I will do a tweet about that. Cool. Any other questions?
Some of them. Hi, everybody. Thanks for organizing this insightful session. Well, you're welcome. Are there any official docs or docs created by Angular team devs that we can use to dive deeper into modern Angular compiler internals? Can I quickly just say something about, I think, a book that my friend wrote a while ago. It's called, let me quickly check. Accelerating Angular Development with Ivy by Lars Nilsson. You know what? I will drop a link later. It's a bit old. I don't remember. I'm not quite sure. Let me just check when it went out. It was. Well, Amazon UI is so bad, to be honest. Publication date. It's from 2021, late 2021, so it's not that old. It has a lot of interesting things about Ivy under the hood, more practical. Like if you're just interested in learning things that you're not gonna actually use, but rather to maybe, I don't know, expand horizons and maybe entertain yourself. Maybe it's not the best, but if you want to know about how the compiler does things that affect maybe some stuff that you want to be more efficient at, or maybe you think a lot about this fine-grained performance and so on, it's a very good book. I learned a lot from it, and I learned a lot from Lars. So on my part, I would suggest that, but Matthieu, you're welcome to say something else.
So to answer the question, if there are many docs about the compiler, the answer is not really. This is also why I actually built the tools, is just to give more insights without having docs. What's great when something is just running is that you don't need to update it. It's just basically based on the framework, and it's updated with the framework. So it's not a doc that you need to update. And since updating docs takes a lot of time, and there is basically no value for us to give docs about this to the community, because you should not care about the compiler. That's just curiosity. What do you want to know about it? So I would say the best thing is, if you have some questions, try to ask them on the Angular Discord. I'm quite often there. Some other people are there, so maybe you can get some answers there. If you have some issues, maybe try to ask, open a GitHub issue. But I would say that unless there is something that really impacts development itself, this unlikely will spend a lot of time and energy for this. But if ever you have questions, I'll be glad to answer them if I have the answer, of course. And also to add some things, at Angular Connect 2019, there is a talk by Kara Eriksson that is, I linked on my Angular compiler output page. You can look Angular Connect 2019
I
about
watched
the
that
Angular
one.
compiler.
Yeah.
You watch that one? It's really interesting to give you a bit of insight of the IV part of Angular. So that's something that didn't change very much since 2019. So it's worth watching this one. And the same Angular Connect 2019 from Alex Riegler, our framework lead today, who also goes into some of the Angular compiler internals. Very interesting to watch.
Roberto says, "Damn, that must be one huge monorepo." I think it means the Google one. What do they use to manage?
It's totally in-house.
Is it Bazel?
No. Oh, so Bazel is a tool chain. Bazel is a tool chain that is open source. That open source name is Bazel. The internal tool used by Google is called Blaze.
Oh, okay.
So it's the same syntax. It uses a language called Starlark. Yeah. It's based on, I don't know on which language. It's kind of weird. It's kind of complex. So Bazel is like a dependency management, etc. And the monorepo, it uses a tool called Piper, but it's not something that you will see outside of Google. It's just so huge. It's totally custom. Version control also is not. I mean, it's a monorepo. So the version control is custom called Piper. Blaze is the tool chain that's used to actually build everything and use the monorepo.
Michael says it's cool to go to something like Google Cloud Console and see that it uses Angular 0.0.
Let me show you. I'll go to something else. Like if I go to Google Fonts, let me load the page and I'll share my screen. If you go to this, and I go to Google Fonts, here I have Google Fonts. Yes, you see the debugger, perfect. Yeah. So every time you see something that is built from a monorepo, like I said, there is no branch, no anything. Everything is always up to date.
Why is this so narrow?
So narrow what?
The screen is like narrow.
Yeah, you don't see the debugger?
No, I see only the part of the screen.
Let me check if I can get you the debugger. I will need to do full screen then.
Right. So you had the console open.
Yes, that's exactly.
I got it. I was wondering why am I seeing this on an iPad?
Window. Let me share the whole screen for this then. You should be able to see Google Fonts and my debugger, right?
Yeah, I see it now.
Yeah. If I zoom a bit, here you'll see you have the same thing that you used to see, ng version, and here it doesn't use the usual version because there is no version inside Google's monorepo. It just sees 000 placeholder. It means that has been built from the monorepo itself. And like Michael said, you have it on any Angular app. So the biggest Angular app at Google today is the Cloud Console from GCP.
Michael says I use an extension called Webalizer. Oh, I use that too.
Webalizer, that gives you a bit of insight of what apps I use. I've seen
sometimes it's so wrong.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for a resource suggestion. Yeah, you're welcome. And Michael also asks. Michael also says curious about if there is compiler docs. You will have to make do. Wow. I learned a lot today. I'm pretty sure everyone who's watching and will watch in the future will learn a lot too. Probably the most important thing that I learned is there's a minor Angular version upcoming, and that we are getting a lot of cool new stuff in the template syntax.
So basically, we didn't take the time to update. So now, usually, I'll share this again. If you go on angular.dev, and if you go on reference, if you go on version and release, you should see here a table that will announce when we release the release dates, the release schedule. Yeah. It's TBA. That's usually where we put the dates for the next minor and major. We were just too lazy to update it. I'll fix this in about 10 minutes.
If you see a site in the wild made with Angular, it would be a great place to drop it. I've basically doxed all my insurance providers because they happen to use it that I submitted. Yeah, makes sense. Maybe I need to submit some of the things that I built. I built my
If you look
personal website with Angular.
A lot of airlines actually use Angular. Like
Yeah, that's true.
if you go to Lufthansa, I have what version here? Oh no, they changed actually. This page is not Angular anymore. It's Maui. Oh, maybe elsewhere. But they have a lot of companies have Angular.
The
They just
enterprise
have to
world
watch for
still
the DOM.
loves lots of banking apps are in Angular,
Also, yeah.
even in Armenia.
Cool.
Yeah, they once tried to kind of handhunt me for the bank, which there is a bank in Armenia that has a very good mobile app, but they have a very bad, like
website.
super bad web app. And at some point, like a long time ago, they wanted to kind of headhunt me to come and help lead the conversion to a modern Angular version with redesign, let's make it cool and so on. And I didn't want to work at a bank, and they still have the old version. I don't know if that's my fault or not.
Cool. Any last questions before we drop? And I mean, if anything, we can chat about any social networks I'm on.
Yeah, actually, sometimes I think that you don't even need to tag Matthieu. Sometimes you just need to ask an interesting question on Twitter or maybe LinkedIn, and they will just show up. And that has been my experience, which is super helpful. I appreciate it a lot, and I also appreciate how many articles of mine you have reviewed.
I try to bring some kind of insight when I have a bit of time, or if I have some interesting comment to drop. I won't review all the articles for Angular Space, but I'm usually around if I think there's something to share about the topic.
We built our fintech app at Questrade, Canadian Fintech with Angular and Webpack Module Federation and MFA architecture. Yeah, that's an interesting stack, and maybe you need to drop that into the Made with Angular website.
Oh, cool. I mean, yeah, model federation is great, but also what I don't like about it is all the additional complexity you get with it. But it's great that you can do it.
Yeah. So thank you very much for everything. Thank you very much for today. It was super insightful. And thanks everyone for watching. See you on the next one.